Modern Love, the podcast, is made possible with support from Living Proof. Living Proof's dry shampoo is so good at absorbing sweat that you can take a spin class and not wash your hair. See for yourself. Use code LOVE at livingproof.com for a free travel-sized dry shampoo with your $20 order. Living Proof. We are the science. You are the living proof. And by Squarespace, the easiest way to create a website for you and your ideas. With 24-hour customer support, you can start today. You get a free trial, but don't forget to enter offer code MODERNLOVE to get 10% off on your first purchase. You should. Squarespace.
From the New York Times and WBUR Boston, this is Modern Love. Stories of love, loss, and redemption. I'm your host, Meghna Chakrabarty. It's here, Modern Love, the podcast. Welcome to our first episode. We're very excited to be partnering with the New York Times to bring Modern Love to life. So it's a little, ironic maybe, that we're kicking things off with a story that begins in that other reality we all dwell in, online, specifically Craigslist. Now, some people go to Craigslist to look for apartments or furniture. Rosemary Counter went there for a good laugh from the Missed Connections section. And that experience took a turn so wild, it ended up in Modern Love. Here's award-winning Broadway actor and musician Lauren Molina with Rosemary's story, A Craigslist Missed Connection Lure.
A decade ago, before Twitter and Instagram, and when Facebook was still in its infancy, my university friends and I spent many hours lurking in Craigslist's Missed Connection section, sipping cheap rosé while perusing posts and laughing at the desperate souls who loitered there. The more pathetic the ads, the better. You, Asian in green toque. Me, skinny jeans reading. Wanted to say I liked your smile, but you got off at Eglinton. Perhaps it was a fluke, or maybe our habit made what happened inevitable, but one night my friend Kate saw an ad that read, "You were at the Drake Hotel, slim with red hair and a black satin top. I didn't say hi because you were dancing with your friends. I've never done this before, but thought, hey, it's worth a shot." "This is you," she squealed. "This is seriously, actually you." In those days, I was red-haired, and that night my friends and I, with me in a black top, had indeed been sipping mojitos at the Drake, celebrating a birthday in an intimate group that, yes, might have been intimidating to a guy wanting to approach one of us. Despite how I had mocked those who posted on Missed Connections, I needed no convincing to reply. "So this is random," I wrote, "but I think I might be the girl you saw." He answered within the hour, shocked his post had found me, if I was, in fact, the woman he saw. After some witty banter, I sent him a photo. "It's you," he wrote. "I can't believe it's really you." At my request, he sent me a photo of himself, crooked smile and droopy-eyed with cropped hair. "I'm not very photogenic," he said with charming self-deprecation. "I'm not tall either." It all felt so sweet, strange, and surreal, and impossibly romantic. On our first date, he drove all the way downtown to pick me up for an early dinner. It was his pleasure, he explained, as he was dropping his brother off at the airport anyway. "Family is the absolute most important thing to me," he said over a shared bottle of red wine in a candlelit cafe. "I know I'm not supposed to say this already, but I'm so ready to settle down. I just need the right girl." We bundled up and walked through the cold to the movie theater for a late screening, stopping at a cash machine along the way. "This is my treat," he said, something he would announce proudly and often in the days to come. When a young man passing by eyed us up and down, he wrapped his arm around my waist and said, "He's wondering what a girl like you is doing with someone like me." On the way home, he stopped at a vendor and bought me blue carnations. I had been burned so many times, I knew better than to get my hopes up about this leading anywhere. I almost prided myself on being jaded, on being immune to disappointment. But the next morning, he called to ask me out to breakfast. I took the whole day off work, he said, because I can. We went for breakfast, and then, because I didn't have the luxury of skipping my waitress shift, he drove me to work. "Do you need a drive home later?" he asked. Nobody had ever picked me up or cared how I'd get home, so I happily accepted. Over the next week, whenever I needed to go anywhere, he wanted to come to keep me company. He always had something special in mind, a restaurant reservation or tickets already purchased. One night I mentioned I'd be missing America's Next Top Model, and the next day he delivered me the whole box set. It was, I imagined, how love was supposed to be. We were spending every free moment together. While other connections had felt forced, this was the twist of fate I had been waiting for. Although I was blissfully happy being spoiled and adored, my new life with my missed connection made me wonder how brutally fickle chance could be. What if Kate hadn't clicked on his ad that night? What if he had been too shy to post it? What if fate hadn't intervened and we had never met at all? And what if the universe, as quickly as it had gifted him to me, could snatch him back? I posed questions like these to Kate and nearly everyone I knew, making me insufferable, I'm sure. And then, 10 days into the best relationship I'd ever had, nonstop romance, presents, cuddling, Kate appeared unannounced at my doorstep. She hadn't seen me much recently, as bad friends like me often disappear when consumed with a new man, and she had a bad feeling. I had a bad feeling too, but mostly about her, imagining that she felt jealous, possessive, and alone. Chance had favored me, but not her, though I smugly assured her that someday that would change, if only she believed. Something had shifted in me when my silly fantasies turned real, and if there were any red flags, I refused to see them. So Kate pointed them out. Why, for example, didn't I know more about his life, despite having spent a solid week together? Because he was such a good listener that I did most of the talking. Why had I never been to his house? Because he lives way uptown and I don't drive. Why the disproportionate number of presents? Because he's the most generous man I've ever met. Why were we going on 3 dates a day? Because I was finally getting the attention I deserved. In any case, I cut a deal with Kate and agreed to call and press him ever so gently. On my flip phone from a parking lot, I said, "My friend is probably totally crazy, but is there anything you should tell me?" Normally the strong, silent type, he burst into tears.
"Oh, God. I knew that this was going to happen. I knew that you were going to find out."
It was almost as if he had been waiting to confess. This moment, a release he had been anticipating. He was married, of course, and under a lot of pressure. He had 1 child already and another on the way. He didn't have a brother. It was his wife he dropped at the airport. She and their child had gone to visit family and would be back in a few days. And the clincher? Though he had heard good things about it, he had never been to the Drake Hotel. He did, however, truly like redheads. "I chose you," he said. "You were special." But he hadn't chosen me. He laid a trap for women with red hair and black tops, and maybe another trap for blondes with freckles, and I was the one who walked into it. Chance hadn't favored me. It had targeted me, tapping something in me that was dormant but susceptible to romantic delusion. After all, long before my missed connection placed his ad, I had been loitering on Craigslist, mocking people who I thought were lonely and needy and nothing like me. But they were everything like me. We were all hoping love wouldn't miss us. We were all eager to believe that love, for us, was meant to be. After our 10 intense days together, my missed connection disappeared as quickly as he arrived, timed almost to the day of his wife's return. I imagined him picking her up at the airport with a bouquet of blue carnations, or some special present with a secret meaning only they would understand. Or maybe he didn't do things like that for her anymore. For a long time, I considered sending her an email, possibly anonymously, but decided against it. I didn't know her or what she might do. Those rambunctious evenings of cheap rosé and Craigslist stalking are long gone. But sometimes I type the name of my missed connection into Google, and there he is, easily findable now on nearly every social media platform, smiling wide with his arms crossed atop his tie, or tweeting about his life's minute details. Everything I needed to know is right there, a decade too late. Meanwhile, he and his wife have divorced. They weren't meant to be either, apparently. One thing I do know, meant to be is just a fairy tale we tell ourselves. Sometimes it's even an ad on Craigslist.
Lauren Molina reading Rosemary Counter's modern love piece, A Craigslist Missed Connection Lure. As Rosemary says in the piece, these days she could have just Googled or Facebooked the guy to find out what a creep he was. Is that how she approaches dating today? We'll ask Rosemary Counter and talk with Daniel Jones, editor of Modern Love for the New York Times, after the break.
I'm Katie at Living Proof, and we get love letters all the time, like this one. Dear Living Proof, I've used so many dry shampoos, but my hair still gets greasy, and I wear a ponytail by day 3. Your dry shampoo has my hair so clean and full of body that it's still down on day 4. This is the most effective dry shampoo I've ever used. Love, Kat. You can use the code LOVE for a free travel-sized dry shampoo with your $20 order. livingproof.com.
This is Modern Love, the podcast. I'm Meghna Chakrabarty, and with me now from Toronto is the author of A Craigslist Missed Connection Lure, Rosemary Counter. Rosemary, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Also with us is Daniel Jones, editor of the Modern Love column. Dan, thank you for being here as well.
Hi, Meghna.
So, Rosemary, I've got a ton of questions for you.
No.
First and foremost, I'm just curious. This experience happened, 10 years ago or so?
Yeah, I was 22 and I am 32 now, so I think it's almost 10 years exactly.
Okay, so did you ever hear from that Craigslist guy after the piece appeared in the New York Times?
Absolutely not. And I was actually very, very grateful for that. I was really nervous when the piece came out that I was going to get an angry email or worse, something from a lawyer, or I don't know, I had all kinds of personal anxieties about it.
Well, Dan, what about Rosemary's story really struck you? Because there was a ton of things that just resonated with me, but it feels like this is something that everyone could nod their head to and say, I kind of get this.
I mean, I'm fascinated by these stories of people being conned. You know, love itself is a kind of con. Like, you have to trust when someone says they love you. Like, you want to believe in sort of the romance of that kind of story. And people are so judgmental of others who fall for that kind of thing. And I feel like saying to all of them, like, wait till you're in that situation.
Exactly.
You know? Like,
Exactly.
Wait until you're there and someone's coming on strong. And
I got a lot of notes, actually. Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
No.
Afterwards, I got a lot of notes of people who said, you know, you are the stupidest girl. No wonder this happened to you. So thank you, those people, for the feedback. But that's not an uncommon, response. I got that a lot.
You know, we want to believe that we're loved. We want to believe that we're lovable. And Rosemary was in this case. It's just that he wasn't telling the truth on his end.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so Rosemary, I have to say that was the thing, one of the first things that really grabbed me about your story, because I love how you're describing that you and your friends got together with your glasses of rosé, right, and mocked the people who on misconnections. But let's be honest, like, so many of us have done that, and it's amazing. It's amazing to feel that. Yeah. So can you just tell me a little bit more about, like, when your friend turned to you and said, "Oh my gosh, that was you at the Drake"? Like, really, how did that first feel?
It felt amazing. And in my defense, I'd like to say I wasn't the only person who got so excited that, me. She was equally excited. We were both oddly invested in this pastime we had, reading Craigslist in them, and all of a sudden it was us.
And then, of course, as Dan was rightly pointing out, like the attention and
I loved it.
It just kept going and going and going.
doesn't?
So many presents and dinners.
This is before people broadcast their entire lives on social media.
Yes.
I guess today I just Google the person or check Twitter or Facebook and you would automatically know, but you didn't have that option then.
It's funny you say that, too, because I remember at the time when I Googled him, we were all like, should we Google him? That's pretty creepy.
Oh,
It
really?
was kind of, yeah.
What a different
now
age.
you would never go anywhere without Googling.
Yeah.
I'm not meeting anybody. No way.
Yeah. I really felt for you when Kate showed up and she was like, hey, wait a minute. It's been 10 days. I haven't seen you.
Right.
What's going on? Like, as a reader?
The voice of reason.
Yeah. As a reader, I'm thinking, your friend's doing you a favor there because she's giving you the stalker alert or
Yeah.
whatever. But I can totally get why you were like, hey, everything's going great. What's the problem with that?
Yeah, and I'm sure I was all smug, too, because, I was the one out of the group of girls who got chosen. So I'm sure there was kind of a queen bee factor happening as well. I thought that I had been chosen and I was getting the benefits, and that if everybody else maybe believed the way I did, that it could work out for them too. It was awful.
And
I
it's
was
a completely understandable reaction for you to think your friends are resentful of you.
Right.
They feel like you're spending all your time with this other person. So for you to think that their warnings are just, we've lost Rosemary, she's having too much fun.
She's gone.
Well, there always is that concern that like the perfect romantic relationship ends up in you divorcing your friends. But
Yeah, and I think your friends are oddly good at seeing this kind of stuff in advance too.
yeah.
I think in lots of ways they're smarter than you are because they're not wearing the love goggles.
How did this experience change you?
I think for a while afterwards, I was very angry and I was very cynical. I never have done online dating ever again because I don't know if this just burned me so much, but it's really hard for me to trust anybody to be who they say they are.
So, Rosemary, was there ever any part of you that kind of wanted to get back at him?
It would be a huge lie for me to say getting this story out there in this place, obviously, too, was not very pleasurable for me because I love personally how it takes the idea of chance, and how he had used chance against me and, throws it right back at him. Like, what are the chances that you pull this scam a decade ago and you just happen to pick the same girl who's going to put this out there in 10 years? Ha, ha, ha.
Are you in a relationship right now?
I am. I just got married this summer.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
And since you had said that you bailed completely on online dating, how'd you meet your husband or partner?
I met him at a magazine launch.
That's good. It's like the old-fashioned way.
Yeah, kind of retro.
Rosemary Counter is a Toronto-based writer and author of this week's story, A Craigslist Missed Connection Lure. Rosemary, thank you so much for speaking with us.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
And Dan Jones, editor of Modern Love and the author of Love Illuminated, exploring life's most mystifying subject with the help of 50,000 strangers. Dan, thank you.
Pleasure.
Special thanks to Lauren Molina, who narrated Rosemary's piece. Lauren made her Broadway debut as Joanna in the 2005 revival of Sweeney Todd. She's since performed extensively both on and off Broadway and can be found touring the country as half of the comedy pop duo, the Skivvies. You can see her right now in the Cleveland Playhouse production of Little Shop of Horrors. On the next Modern Love, Jason Alexander, best known as George Costanza on Seinfeld, brings us a story of big love and a little fish.
I am a fish person only in the sense that I like to eat them. Then why have I become emotionally attached to a pocket-sized creature that lives in a cocoon of water? It does not sleep in my lap. Never once have I taken it for a walk or even a swim.
Modern Love is a production of WBUR, Boston's NPR station, and the New York Times. We're produced, directed, and edited by Jessica Alpert, John Parati, and Amory Sievertson. Thanks this week to Peter Dubois, artistic director of the Huntington Theatre Company, who directed Lauren Molina's performance. The idea for the Modern Love podcast was conceived by Lisa Tobin. Iris Adler is our executive producer. Daniel Jones is the editor of Modern Love for the New York Times and advisor to the show. Let us know what you think of this episode. Follow Modern Love on Facebook at facebook.com/modernlove. You can also follow Dan Jones on Twitter at DanJonesNYT. And I'm Meghna WBUR. That's at MEGHNAWBUR. And if you haven't already, subscribe to Modern Love on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Meghna Chakrabarty. Thanks for listening.